So today on the show, we have Radha Agrawal.
Great. Excellent. Okay, great. All right, action.
This is exactly where you need to come for credible life advice. You ask the questions, and we're going to answer them.
So you are the co-founder and CEO and chief community officer of Daybreaker, which I'm going to have you explain a little bit about because you'll explain it better than I could. You're also the co-founder of Thinx and Live It Up Life Social.
Life School.
Life School. You speak all over the world and you teach people how to create meaningful communities, right? And you've also just written Belong.
Yes.
Yes, which is absolutely, like, I was so impressed by this book because it's so much more creative than I ever expected. Like, you open it and you're like, oh my God, this is actually like a workbook.
Yes.
With like illustrations and drawings, and it's super easy to read because P.S. I find self-help books, even though I'm in the field, super boring.
Totally.
And this was like easy to read. I could do it in a day. The exercises were awesome. I just loved it. And it's filled with so much practical information. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But so I just read your bio and I was asking you out there before. So many people, I'm into a lot of stuff, and often I'm meeting with a new investor or someone who's meeting with me for the first time, and I really never know how to explain like what I do or what I've done. And they always give me this backhanded compliment or insult. I can't even like tell what it is. And they say to me, God, it seems like you're into a lot of stuff, or like you're super busy, or do you ever think you want to focus on one thing? And it's just like my heart sinks because there's no way I'm going to be able to communicate to them how I feel about all of these things and one's ability, if you're a creator and you're a creative person and you're right brain and left brained. You're both. That's so clear to me right away when I met you, when I read your book, everything. You're able to be super creative, but you're also able to put systems into place, which not every creative can do. And people who are really good at putting systems into place can't always be creative, tap that energy, right? So you're good at that. And what you said to me out there was brilliant. You said, I'm really good at this point, setting something up and then letting it go. So can you explain a little bit more about that to me?
Yeah, I think the older I get, I'm 39 now.
Yeah.
I've been doing the entrepreneurship game for 15
Long
years.
time.
And, I think now I have a really wonderful Rolodex. All entrepreneurship is relationships, right? And sort of creating teams. Like it's, entrepreneurship, the idea is one piece of it. Of course, the idea is important, but an idea is only as good as its execution, right? So what I've become, I think, really adept at is finding team members who have different skill sets from me, and then sort of really kind of selling the dream, and I think it's really important to build that sort of initial founding team that you trust. Of course, I'm not hands off. I don't just let it go fully. I'm very, very hands on in every project that I do. But it's really great when someone can jump in and build the systems or operate the business where I can be a bit more high level. So that's really where I think I've learned how to now multitask and build multiple companies all at the same time. The thing about my businesses that I'm focused on is actually them all being the same ecosystem, though.
What do you mean by that?
So, my book Belong, very much relates to, it's about community building. Daybreaker is about community building, of course, right? I'm a community architect. And Live It Up Life School is also in the same sort of world of community and sharing wisdom and supporting one another meaningfully. So all the projects I'm taking on now are all in the same sort of universe and ecosystem, so that I can be in a conversation with somebody and be talking about all three seamlessly without it being like, oh, I'm doing, I don't know, a widget company and another one's a service company. They're all in the same ecosystem.
Right. They all have the same, there's some fundamental purpose.
That's right.
That's driving the brands.
Yeah. And they all can talk to each other. So someone who goes to Daybreaker will likely be interested in reading my book, Belong, right? Because you come to these events and experiences so you can, meet people, connect to yourself, connect to each other, self-express. And I wrote the book for all those who want to go deeper into that, and also who want to scale their community at large. Like, I actually open sourced everything we did at Daybreaker, like how we grew the movement to 500,000 people around the world in less than 5 years with no marketing spend, just on word of mouth. And I want to just give anybody wanting to build their own community and figure it out exactly how we did it. I think so many books on community building are theoretical in nature and are very sort of high level or sort of a bit too intellectual. I'm kind of a kid at heart.
Well, you're an experiential learner, obviously.
Exactly.
Yes.
So every page in my book, when you turn the page, is a new illustration that I've done, and it really feels like you're experiencing together, and it's not like I'm shouting at you on the page. Like I put 20 exercises in the book, maybe more, so that we're participating in building community together. Like, that's the cornerstone of building community, is participation. So the book should not be a passive reading experience; it should be an active one.
Right, right. So can I ask you, first of all, I came to you because I heard about Thinx underwear years ago. So can you explain what Thinx is before we go on to Daybreaker?
Sure.
Even though you had, after reading this, I didn't realize that you had a company before that as well, which was the Sprout company.
Super Sprowtz.
Super Sprowtz, which was totally adorable.
Thank you. Yeah, it was the idea. I mean, I'm really passionate about childhood obesity and children's nutrition education. Even before I have children, I'm 7 months pregnant now, but before, I just was very passionate about just what was happening in this country around our nutrition education. So I built that for 5 years, but in that time, my sister and I started Thinx.
So simultaneously,
yes, which is why I couldn't do both at the same time.
Is what's so interesting to me, is that it was simultaneously.
Yes.
You started building Thinx.
Thinx and Daybreaker and Super Sprowtz all at the same time. So that's why my twin sister Mickey ended up building Thinx, because I was already so entrenched, and raised $5 million for Super Sprowtz.
How did you raise that money?
A lot of it is just is if you build it, they will come. I really believe that. And so, I wrote 5 children's books.
Yep.
I produced 50, videos. I had a few good friends believe in the project early on and invested some seed money. And then actually this one was like chance, and so much of entrepreneurship is chance also. I happened to have a co-working space, a next door roommate, like next door neighbor, who had a 2-year-old, and he said, my daughter hates her vegetables, she will never eat them. I was like, okay, game on. So I gave him one of my brine broccoli puppets, and a book that I written called I Am Brine Broccoli and I'm Super Strong.
So awesome.
And he was like, all right. So he went home that night and came in the next morning freaking out, had taken video of his daughter saying, look, Daddy, I'm super strong. He ran to the fridge to literally eat a raw vegetable from the fridge, a raw broccoli vegetable from the fridge, and then made a muscle to say, and she's like 2 years old. So he just was like, this is huge, this is so important. So he brought it to friends of his who were investors, and they invested an initial $2 million in the business when I had like $15,000 left in the bank, which I didn't tell him at the time.
Of course, that's how the universe works. You were like, I'm not going to tell you that it's like almost on the way out. Like, totally. We're almost done here.
Which if you've read, Nike, Phil Knight's book, Shoe Dog, which I just finished reading with, great interest. It was such a beautifully written book. Just like the number of times they were almost bankrupt, it's just incredible. The number of hoops he had to go through to keep Nike alive was just like, honestly, was deeply inspiring. And I think every entrepreneur,
I have the chills.
Every entrepreneur goes through that. We all go through these moments of, okay, like, are we going to continue doing this, or universe, like, is there a manifested moment that you can sort of bring to me, that gives me an answer that, so these types of events, I don't think are accident. I think I was meant to meet him. But I also, in the end got into bed with, sort of misaligned investors. I ended up having a sort of a tough go of it. I had like basically a hostile takeover, and I had to walk away, and it was really intense and really hard and heartbreaking. And it's like my first baby was ripped away from me, and I have still trouble talking about it without bursting into tears. So I think as women, especially, we go into so many moments of entrepreneurship with sort of empathy and love and hope and kind of a giant
pure
intentions, and then we get fucked over. Pardon the French. And
go for it.
and so I think anyone who's interested in entrepreneurship, don't be so bright-eyed about investment dollars. When someone says, big swinging, I raised $100 million. It's not basically you're in debt $100 million, right? You're now in debt. You have these golden shackles, and the number of friends that I have who are Fortune 500 CEOs who've had nervous breakdowns, who've had major panic attacks around the money they've raised, it's just not worth it. So I always tell young entrepreneurs, especially women, don't go into things with don't go into business with a masculine approach, which is hockey stick growth, and I got to sell in 5 years, and I need to raise, and it's hot to say I have 80 employees. It's not sexy anymore. Like, I don't think I think that sort of sexiness of hockey stick growth with X number of employees is not nearly as rewarding as building a profitable business. Build a business that's not in debt. Build a business that's going to be sustainable over time. Don't look at revenue numbers. Look at net profit numbers. Like, how much are you actually netting? Not just the revenue. So many of these big businesses, they're saying I make 500 million in revenue, but then if you look at the profit loss, they're actually losing $100 million every year. Right. So build a business that's sustainable, and you've got yourself an evergreen, beautiful life. That constantly sort of it grows incrementally over the course of 50 years. And that's what I tell my team all the time is I don't want a crazy jump in numbers. I just want beautiful, sort of slow, conscious, feminine growth.
It's so as you're talking, I'm again getting the chills just listening to you, because you're such a gift. You have so much knowledge to share, especially to women who are trying to get this done. And you guys have heard me say this before, 50% of women who are divorced in this country are living on or below the poverty line, which is really frightening, because you think of all those women who are mothers and single mothers out there, and how close to the bone not only are they living, but their children are living. So the idea of kids, when you become a mother, especially going to bed hungry at night, makes you want to be, you're just like, why should I do anything else but fight hunger, right? So you're such a gift. I'm thinking about, though, what do you say to the women who don't have any seed money to begin with? They don't have any foundation, but they have this wonderful idea. My heart always breaks for them, because I've been lucky enough, even though it has not been easy, and I've been at the gas station before with kids in the car, putting my card into, the pump, going, I don't know if this is going to work.
Right.
Like, I don't know, kids. Like, I don't know, I've like really bootstrapped it as an entrepreneur, and I'm past that point now, but I didn't give up on the dream. And I don't always suggest that's for everybody. It's really, as what you're saying, it's really hard to know.
Totally.
Do I give it up, or do I like wait for the universe to come in at the last minute and sort of save the situation?
Right.
But what do you say to the women who have nothing? Like, they don't, and what you're saying is you have to be careful of getting funding. And P.S., I had a woman last week on the show who owns a bar in Brooklyn called Butter and Scotch. Allison Cave, she's amazing. And she got a small business loan, and she raised Kickstarter money. But she said the small business loan, she now she pays back that small business loan, and it's really tough. And it was $200,000. And, it hasn't been easy to go into debt to then build a profitable company only to be paying back that debt.
Right.
So
I think step one before you even start a business is to ask yourself these questions. And I think this is, for everyone listening out there, like, don't start a t-shirt company. Do you know what I mean? Like, really ask yourself, is this one of one? Is this product or service that you're creating the first of its kind, right? Or are you just, copying everybody else and just doing another shirt or like jewelry company or whatever? Ask yourself, what real value am I bringing to the world? And is this thing something that the world needs, right? Because the world is, the earth, Mama Earth is she's hurting right now. We don't need to be printing more t-shirts or making more mugs. Let's really just start asking ourselves the question, how is this supporting the planet, and how is this supporting a new idea that's going to move the world forward? So that's so in any new business that I start, I think about these three questions. Question one is, does it suck? Does this suck for me, right? What sucks in my world, right? So for Thinx, bleeding in tampons and pads sucked in my world.
Right.
Right?
So I love this because now you're getting into how I found you, which is through Thinx.
Right. So it's like, my sister and I started Thinx together because I'm a heavy bleeder. I'm Asian, Indian woman, half Japanese, half Indian. And I bleed like crazy. And every month I would have these embarrassing leaks and stains. I'd be sitting on the subway in New York City. I'd get up from my subway seat.
Terrible.
And there'd be a giant blood stain that I have to wipe off. Or I'd be in the middle of an investor meeting and I'd get up and I'd have to run out to go to the bathroom and change my bloody tampon. That was seeping in.
Which doesn't even work.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And there's so much toxicity in it. There's just so many issues with these products that were invented by men, you know? And so
I'm trying to get a woman on who lost both of her legs to TSS syndrome from using a tampon.
There you go.
Yeah.
And what's amazing is my fiance's dad discovered toxic shock syndrome. Yeah, which is crazy.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's so wild. Anyway, but
not surprising because that's how stuff works.
I know. So what sucks in my world is a very important question, and for me, I was very passionate about it because also menstruation, saying something I have my period was very taboo. At the time, we've broken open that conversation, right? The fact that
your company, I would say, single-handedly did that.
Thank you.
There was a few other companies out there producing that kind of underwear. There's a company in Canada that was doing it as well, a woman in Canada, but that I remember researching when I looked into buying your underwear. But you guys were doing it in the most radically transparent,
and feminist
disruptive, feminist way.
That's right.
All of your campaigning, everything was so
Thank you.
On point and inspiring.
Thank you. I mean, I think we were, we broke open that conversation, and I'm really proud of all the women who have now come together to sort of continue breaking it open as well. But yeah, it was wild at the time to be going to investors and asking them for money, and they're laughing at us because they don't understand periods, and every time we would say that it was a boys club, making fun. It was just very fucked up, and so it's one of those things where this is the first time in history that women have the ability to build our own businesses around products and services that serve our needs, that aren't created by men, and yet it's still hard to raise the money because men are the ones who are deciding who's getting the checks. And so it's still an uphill battle. I do believe that the walls are coming down for sure. I do believe that more women are being funded today. But for the last 15 years, I saw firsthand just how sexist that entire experience can be. So raising money as a woman, right off the bat, if you can, you're a superhero. So, high five yourself. But secondly is to, okay, so let me just get back into 3 questions and then we'll get into fundraising, because these 3 questions are the foundation for any business that you start. So what sucks in my world, right? Second question is, does it suck for more than just me? And I think so often women are like, oh, I want to start I really wish there was a candle that smelled like, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's does a lot of people feel that way? And it's nobody.
Or is that something you could make DIY?
Yeah, exactly.
On a Saturday.
DIY. Yeah, exactly, by yourself. But and nobody really gives a shit about it,
Right.
So just be very honest with yourself and ask yourself, will other people care about this? And for us, we're wait a minute, 1 in 2 women will care about underwear that actually will solve their monthly issues. So, what if we invented a pair of underwear that is leak proof, stain resistant, sexy, feel gorgeous in it, that is breathable, and absorbs up to 2 tampons worth of blood. That's revolutionary, never been done before. So that was sort of the okay, this sucks for me, definitely. It sucks for every single woman that I've ever met, with a dirty underwear tucked in the back of their drawer. And the third question was, can I be passionate about this issue, cause, or community for a very long time, right? So is this something I'm going to be passionate about for a very long time? And it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, It does.
Say that again for everybody.
It takes 10 years to be an overnight success.
Yes.
And people keep asking, the Gangnam Style guy, who did the, video on YouTube, who had like 1 billion, 3 billion, whatever views. They were like, oh my God, what's it like to have overnight success? He went from a nobody. He's like, I have been making videos for 15 years. This is just one video that happened to go viral, but I've been doing this art for a very long time. So people just only kind of
latch on to
that moment without realizing how much blood. Lady Gaga was like literally like dragging her shit around all over town, playing 5 gigs a night, going for it and like really building. She believed in herself and created her own fate, even if the world said you're not pretty enough or good enough to do it. And she just built her own fate, So whenever I get entrepreneurs who are like, well, I'm overweight, or I'm this, or I'm that, or nobody, will invest in me. You're cute. So maybe, and I'm like, well, okay. So it's more difficult for us, if I'm a person of color. It's just like, there's so many different kind of excuses that we make. I'm half Indian, I'm a person of color too, and I'm a woman, and I'm 5 feet tall. So like taller women, like lucky for you now, it's easier.
Although it's funny because I'm going to get slaughtered for saying this. I actually had the thought this morning that the boundary, and like boohoo me, right? Like white privilege, like gorgeous, I have a great education, like whatever. So I'm not crying for myself here, but I actually had this moment, and I talk about this a lot with my team, where the boundary I have to break through is that people think I'm going to be a bitch. People think I'm going to be a snob, and don't think I'm necessarily going to be that bright. Right. So that's,
so we're all breaking our own.
We're all breaking our own.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like I still can, like, again, that has nothing. That's like much easier for me to deal with than I'm never going to suggest anything else. I wouldn't even imagine. Well, that's like a guy telling me he understands what it's like to be a woman. It's like, fuck you.
Exactly.
You like cannot.
Yeah. So there's so many, so it's like, so I think it's a getting out of that space of, well, making excuses for why the thing that you're presenting isn't working. Mm-hmm. And I think those 3 questions will help you get there first, right? Is just like for me, it's like for a lot of people to kind of be passionate about this for the next 10 years. Then the next question around fundraising is,
I don't want to miss a word of what you're saying.
Yeah. And then the next question around fundraising is, how do I present best as a human being, right, in the world? Like, am I better one-on-one with somebody? Am I better when I'm throwing a party for somebody, or for community members? Like, how do I most naturally feel myself? So, when Mickey and I first started fundraising, I say Mickey and I for a lot of things, because Mickey's my twin sister,
and she did things with you,
and she did things with me, and we've done most of our projects together. She's my soulmate, and my biggest inspiration. So a lot of it will be Mickey and I. But when Mickey and I started going, fundraising, one-on-ones never really worked, because I just would be like in my pantsuit that didn't fit correctly.
Oh, it's so awful.
And like wearing like pearl necklaces, and I'm just like, do you know what I mean?
So,
and I'm just like trying to be serious and professional and masculine in my masculine.
Yes.
And just wasn't in my feminine, and I just found myself to be like keeping up with the Jones, trying to be like
what you imagine it should be to be at an investor meeting with those people.
Right. And by the way, it's important to mirror as well. I think whatever the investor is saying, you want to mirror them to make them feel comfortable, because like if they're giving you money, you want them to feel comfortable with the language that you're speaking. So often we'll be like, I want to create this, and if the investor talks in staccato, if the investor talks like this, you even want to maybe mirror the way he talks. Like there's this like there's all this sort of game theory around fundraising that's really interesting. Anyway, I can get into that in more detail, but
no, I'm just thinking I have to have Molly Bloom back on with you. Do you know who she is?
No.
She's yeah, I had her. I interviewed her.
Yes.
And I'm actually going to an event with her in Baltimore. We're going to a
way.
comedy club. Yeah,
that's awesome.
In a couple weeks. Yes. Yeah. I mean, getting you and Molly Bloom in a room to talk about that would be like, oh shit.
Yeah. But anyway, but it's coming into a situation and asking yourself, am I shining in this moment? So we would do one-on-ones, and it just wasn't working. I just didn't feel like. So my sister and I always threw parties for our friends. We always threw dinner gatherings. We're always the ones. Our home was Grand Central Station for all of our friends growing up, and through college, and in my 30s it was a bit or my 20s rather, it was a bit weird, because I kind of fell into this weird pattern, and I get into that in my book, but I always felt most natural hosting, and so in some of our fundraising kind of gatherings, we, instead of just doing one-on-one, we just invited a bunch of potential investors into a room, anybody that we thought could write a check.
Yeah,
really,
which is how politicians do it.
It's literally anybody. And of course, I didn't say anybody, but it's like, and then we would bring in some really interesting, fun creative types that can actually make the room a lot less boring.
Yes.
You know, not to say that everyone with money is
no,
boring.
but they can be heavy meetings.
But they can
be their heaviness.
Yeah, exactly.
People know they're getting hit up for money.
Right.
Like,
but if you're bringing like creative types in and like having music and just like, you know, live musicians, like, you know, having a cocktail party, so, and then, you know, from that experience, you raised our first $25,000, you know, and so, so just ask yourself, where do I shine the most? Is it one-on-one? Is it in group settings?
How much money did you end up raising for Thinx? Can you say?
For Thinx, we ended up raising just a few, not that much, for it to be
massively profitable.
We didn't raise very much money.
Did you do a Kickstarter campaign?
We did. So how we launched Thinx was actually on Kickstarter. And again, this comes back to community and why I wrote my book, because, you know, Thinx and Daybreaker would not exist today. And Daybreaker is is another project that I started with my friend, and now it's a 500,000 person community in 25 cities around the world. It's called Daybreaker. It's a morning dance party.
Yeah. So I want you to talk. Yeah, because I don't want it to be like the tail end of a conversation.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
Huge.
Yeah. So
it's huge. The one thing before we go on to Daybreaker, though, when you decided to start, you obviously were still running Thinx, and then you had this idea for Daybreaker, which you talk about in the book.
Right.
And it started literally as like a dance party with your friends.
That's right.
And now 500,000 people are part of the community.
Yeah, that's right.
But again, like with Belong, which I loved, which I'm going to put up right here. What's so crazy about Belong is that it's not like you're telling just a little bit in the book and then there's like a sale at the end of it. Like, okay, take my online course and I'll really tell you the goods. You literally give institutions, companies, individuals the roadmap of how to actually build community. Which is really how to build the best business you can build now, because people want to join communities. They don't just want to buy products. Well, the world has changed.
After the elections, I was very focused on open sourcing everything that I could around community building, so that anybody who wanted to build their own could have the tools to do it. But just to kind of come back to sort of how this aligns with Kickstarter, you know, Daybreaker and Thinx, you know, building community. Thinx would not exist today had it not been for my friends and for community members on Kickstarter supporting with buying underwear. I had more men, I think, buying underwear, like friends who are guys who bought underwear for girlfriends they might have in the future.
Because they loved you guys.
They loved us and they want to support us. So, you know, friends would buy like $3,000 worth of underwear, you know, just to support us. Yeah. And had we not built that community, in the first, you know, half of my book, I talk about going in and asking yourself, you know, what is it that I want in a community? And in my 20s, I was sleepwalking. You know, I just was in sports bars watching sports and drinking beer and hanging out with people who didn't inspire me and shit talked to each other. But in my 30s, I really became singularly focused on finding my tribe. And in doing that and actually going in and asking myself, what do I care? What do I value? What do I want in community? It turned my entire life around. And the friends that supported me, who bought tickets to the first Daybreaker, they weren't asking to be slid onto the guest list. They were like, I'm supporting you, Radha. I'm buying a $25 ticket. I'm supporting your Kickstarter campaign. I'm buying a $35 pair of underwear, even if I'm a guy. you know?
You never forget those people either.
I'll never forget
You
those
never
friends.
forget them.
Yeah, and
who believed in you when nobody else
that's
was,
right.
or somebody else wanted something for free.
That's right. And I think that's really such a paramount part of building any business that you have, is not to start without a tribe. Like, you can't build any company if you don't have supporters who are going to support you emotionally and to support the sales of your product as well. So I feel really bad for entrepreneurs who just gave everything to their business and didn't build a support network, so that they're on this like millionaire's mansion but alone. You know, like, that's not, you know, at the end of our lives, like Harvard did this study, you know, they interviewed 750 men and asked them, what is the key to happiness and health? And the single most sort of, the biggest answer they got after, the single most important thing is friends and family. That's it, friends and community, deepening relationships. And if we spend all of our life chasing money, power, and fame,
it leaves you empty inside.
It leaves you empty inside. And it sounds so cliche, but as entrepreneurs too, it just, none of it matters. Like building any $100 billion company doesn't matter if no one cares about you, or you've built a castle and then people only now are your friend because you're somebody, right? You want to have built your community before you became successful.
I want to go back to belong really quickly and interject here for a quick second. I think about the people in my entrepreneurial journey was incredibly lonely. I got a lot of resistance from friends and family because I sort of had been on the academic path and it like all made sense to keep going the way I was going. So to sort of step off and say, you know what, I feel like I want to disrupt the mental health space or the wellness space a little bit, or I want to start venturing more into finance and helping women raise money and going into business. I didn't necessarily, with 3 kids to support, divorce, I didn't get a lot of support. I wish the advice I had gotten was what you just gave. Sometimes you have to build your community outside your friends and family network. You have such a gift because you have your sister. Right. So immediately, because I do think like one of the things I face a lot is that I have had to do it without a partner.
Right.
And obviously we can have long conversations about our partnerships, good or they bad. A lot of times they blow up, they don't work well.
Right.
But some of the people I've met as of late had a lot more success early on because they found a really great partner.
That's it.
And I think if you can't find a good business partner to do it with, you can find other entrepreneurs out there to support you, whether it's like a mastermind group or you create your own community of just people to keep you accountable so you don't feel like you're doing this all alone.
Right.
People to say you're
That's
not
critical.
crazy. Maybe you should give up on this thing because you can't see it, but you shouldn't give up on that
Right.
one. Let me introduce you to so-and-so because it is about relationships. I wish I had known that 5 or 7 years ago.
It's exactly right. If you
And you
don't
give
have-
that here. Like I was like, oh, like, and it seems so obvious, but it's so much of what we do, so much of what I say here seems so obvious at the moment, but you're like, we need to be reminded of the obvious.
Totally. I mean, humans are social creatures, and when we keep, when we get trapped in personal development, when we get trapped in self-help and sort of like inner work, which is so important, but if we get trapped inside of it, the whole point of personal development is to better relate to others in the real world.
Or
right?
if you get so trapped as an entrepreneur accomplishing tasks that you think you need to accomplish and you don't network.
That's right.
Like you stop networking, you start meeting, you stop
Exactly.
meeting people, you start working, you
Exactly.
stop working in teams.
Exactly.
Because you can get so bogged down from
Exactly.
8 in the morning trying to get everything you want done by 8 at night.
Right.
That's a disaster.
That's right. And I think,
and it leaves you very empty at the end of the day.
Well, exactly. And it's so funny because, it's very masculine to be like heads down culture, like heads down, like earphones on and just like pounding away.
Let me see how many emails I can get out today.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus like, okay, no, let me put my laptop down. Let me go to this, this social experience. I'll make more I've made more business connections, not on my computer pounding emails, but out in the world and connecting with others. And of course, if people experience social anxiety and shyness and all those other things, that's what we need to overcome, and that's the going in piece that I talk about in my book. It's just like how to actually get to know where your zone of genius is, where you can better connect with others, where you feel the most yourself, so that when you do go out, you're actually, kind of both challenging yourself in those moments of sort of discomfort, but also putting yourself in situations where you feel at ease.
Are you more shy than your sister?
I think we're both. Again, I write about this in my book too. I talk about.
She doesn't seem shy at all.
Neither of us are shy.
Yeah.
I think I'm maybe a bit more. My sister doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah,
She's so
that's the vibe I
courageous
get.
and brave and incredible. I think I don't know. I think we both
Have
are
connectors.
Yeah,
connectors.
I love introducing people and connecting people. But I talk about something about it's like how we label ourselves as introvert, extrovert, right? Like all these different things. When Carl Jung, who defined the terms himself, said, if you're truly introverted or extroverted, you'd be in an insane asylum.
Yes.
Right? That we're on this spectrum.
On this fluidity.
Exactly.
Yes.
That I call metavert, right? So we are all metaverts. So like, let's just break open all the labels. Let's stop calling ourselves names and saying that I suck at meeting people.
Because I took the Myers-Briggs and this is what it says about me.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Like as soon as like you might feel, you might have gone to the Myers-Briggs test on a day that you were off, and then now it's telling you all these things about yourself, and all of a sudden you believe those things about yourself, and it's self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So it's really important that we give ourselves a lot of love and know that, oh, today I didn't eat enough food, so I'm feeling a certain way, or I'm feeling tired or stressed, or I'm feeling deeply jovial and excited and fist pumping in life. So I'm feeling more extroverted and social today. So it's, you know, for me, it just all depends on where I'm at. I'm pregnant right now, 7 months. Some days I just want to nest at home and be filled up by my plants and music. Then other days I want to be out in the world and connecting and dancing at Daybreaker, you know? So I think we should just really stop labeling ourselves and allow ourselves to be everything, all of the things, you know?
So Daybreaker, just to explain to people what it is when you're talking about that exactly, you started Daybreaker while you were working at Thinx because you felt disconnected from community, or did it start before?
So same time.
Time.
Yeah. When we were launching the Kickstarter, I was working on Super Sprowtz, and so there I was in like the hamster wheel of entrepreneurship, just like going, trying to figure out how to make money, because it was like a media company to teach kids about food, but what were we selling? And it was, you know how it goes. So you just kind of like, you get in the business without actually asking yourself, wait a minute, what product or service am I actually selling? So that was very scary. So I'd go out at night and I just want to let my hair down. I'd go out to nightclubs and just dance. But it was always I was always met with mean bouncers at the door, you know, and I was like at 35 and I'm like, I don't want to be dealing with lines of mean bouncers. You know, when I go in the nightclub,
bumping people for drinks.
That's right.
Yeah,
the alcohol, and I'd be dancing. I'd try to dance and like let loose, but then some guy would think it was an invitation, and would try to come up and talk to me, and I just leave me alone. I just want to dance. So I was in a safe space, and the whole experience was just, I mean, the idea of nightlife is beautiful. It's just been co-opted, right, by drugs, alcohol, just like all this negative energy. So the idea was, you know, how can we turn nightlife on its head, keep the elements that are beautiful and positive, but do it in a time in the morning when our energy is the most full. We don't need to hop ourselves up on drugs and alcohol to stay awake. We're all coming from the same place, our bed. So there's a natural connection with everybody there. There's, you know, an intentionality around exactly how we gather. So, you know, when you walk into the space, instead of getting a mean bouncer asking for your ticket, you know, you get a hugging committee, you know, who hugs you at the door. So every act, the entry ritual, the exit ritual, the entire experience from start to finish is super intentional and makes you feel like you belong. And that's really our number one raison d'etre, is if every single human who comes through our space feels a sense of, I'm home, a sense of belonging, then we've done our jobs. You know, it's not that how many clicks on the clicker of people coming through my space that I can share to an investor
and throw drinks down their throat.
Throw drinks down their throat to make
because
my numbers.
They're sober events.
Exactly, they're sober events to grab and go. You take as much as you want. You know, you come in there, it's free food and drinks. It takes us so much love and effort to get the partners to, you know, kombucha companies and green juice companies, all these places to give us stuff. But we do this because we want our community to feel like they're in the living room, you know, that they're home. And this is their one place once a month they can come to and just let go, whether you're a little baby or Jane Goodall, who's been a Daybreaker with her friends, you know, probably studying a different set of apes.
Yeah.
But
so awesome.
But yeah, so it's, you know.
And how many people were at your last event just yesterday?
800 people. And
incredible. And how many Daybreakers are there around the world now?
So we're 25 cities around the world. We do one event per month in a city. So one event per month. So basically, if you go to daybreaker.com and you put your email address in, and you know, find your city in the drop-down menu, you'll start getting our secret invitations. Yeah.
And do you do one event in New York City every month, or two in New York City?
So New York, because we have 80,000 community members in New York.
That's insane.
we do 2 a month. Yeah. Here.
So I just want to go back to some of the things that you said in Belong before we finish. One of the things you talked about was finding portal people.
Yes.
I loved that idea of a portal.
Yes.
Because I had never heard that word before. Right. Did you make that up?
I did find it.
And I was like, I always am looking for the portal.
Yes.
And I always like to think I can be a portal for others.
Right.
And I really try to behave in that way because I've believed for a really long time doing the work I did in my office, and those who follow me know this, that everyone's just energy.
That's right.
That's all we are. We're just energy.
I have a whole chapter on it.
Yeah. And so when people come in, and if I have one gift, it's to be able to read someone's energy. And for a while I could see their energy, right? I know that sounds super woo-woo, but I could see energy in a room. I could see like the aura. I guess people call it the aura. It doesn't happen to me all the time, but it does happen sometimes. And so to hear you call it a portal, can you explain what you mean by that? Because I just thought it was, I'm going to use that forever now.
Please. Oh my gosh, that would make me so happy. But portal is like a generous gatekeeper of a community, right? Portals are generous, and that's the first word to share, because you know, we can be so protective over our networks, quote unquote, right?
It's amazing to see, as I've gotten farther along the line of the podcast and interviewing people and into business, who is completely open and generous and who isn't.
Right, isn't it? It's
And
sort
I'm
of-
just curious. There's no animosity.
Right.
It's no like I'm more evolved than they are.
Right.
I just step back with an element of curiosity and
Right.
go, okay, that's really interesting. But what you're saying is like you have these portals in your life, and then you have to build this community around people who have, I hate to say it, just like great fucking energy.
Right, that's right. And a portal is a gatekeeper of energy. And I think, so often, if you think of, I don't know, people who are promoting events or things like that, they're not often curating energy. They're just trying to get numbers in a room, right? And that's where it goes awry. That's where the event and experience doesn't become as magical, or where you don't feel that exhale of I'm home. So step one in building any event or experience is asking yourself, what is the energy mix in the room? And a good portal knows how to do that. A good portal, again, as a gatekeeper. So sometimes if someone who has negative energy says, hey, can I come to the thing? I'll say, this one is full, this experience is full, but the next one, let's talk about it. And then I'll just say, hey, listen, also, let me just share with you about how you walk into a space, and let's talk about energy and energetic connection, because I feel a very taker vibe, and
So you're pretty upfront.
I'm really upfront because I think it's important for people to know their blind spots. Because sometimes I have this one girl, every time she texts me or calls me, it's always about hire me or do this for me or introduce me to somebody, or it's a very transactional relationship, which just kind of feels shitty for me, which I'm such an open book and I'm super generous with my Rolodex. I just don't like being used, so I can always tell the types of people, and I sat down with her and I just said, listen, maybe it's a cultural thing, you're from different country or whatever, but I don't feel like the way we have a relationship, it feels authentic. It just feels like it's a transactional relationship. And she got very upset, and it was like a thing, and but I feel fully clear in my channel that I was able to share that with her, and she can do whatever she wants with that information,
right?
But if she wants to take it and then she texted me a few weeks later and said, thank you for sharing that feedback with me.
Amazing.
But I think we have to all have the courage. 2 words, right? It's courage and generosity. It's the courage to talk to each other and not take each other down and talk shit about each other behind our backs. It's better to just say, hey, Nell, I just want to share with you, this is how I feel. And then you'd be like, thank you for telling me, as opposed to, getting defensive or angry or whatever. It's like, clearly it's a blind spot. And if someone's saying that to you, just listen and take it in and do whatever you want with that information, but at least acknowledge that it took courage and generosity for that person to sit you down and have a difficult conversation.
I always say to patients, no conversation will ever kill you.
Right.
And if someone's giving you constructive feedback,
right,
open your heart to it.
That's right.
And actually tell the person, instead of getting immediately defensive, whether this is an interpersonal relationship or a business relationship, say, just give me a second to breathe through this.
Right.
I'm going to open my heart and listen to everything you have to say.
That's right.
And I might not respond right away.
Right.
I might have to marinate on it for a few days to come up with the response, or to sort of say like, wow, I think you were really spot on about that. That I might want to refute a little bit, or that I might want to continue asking questions about. But you can always say, like, just open your heart up to the experience. It changes the entire dynamic in the room.
Exactly. And honestly,
and it's progression.
That's right. And I think all we can do, there's no such thing as failure, right? Like I tell every young entrepreneur that there's no such thing as failure. All there is learning, right? So if one of our businesses don't work, we're learning. It's like, here's a wild stat for everybody. 90% of first-time entrepreneurs fail. Okay, 90% of first-time entrepreneurs fail. 90% of second-time entrepreneurs succeed, but only 10% try again.
That's amazing,
right? Because we all we get upset or frustrated. We're like, I'm just going back to the corporate world, 9-to-5 job, whatever. But 90% of second-time entrepreneurs, you've learned so much from your first mistakes. The second time around is so much easier, but only 10% of those people try again. So that's the spirit that, for me, I've fallen down. So I think my biggest asset is courage. Is I just have the courage.
But I look at you and I see such a success. Have you had big failures?
Every 5 seconds.
Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean though? You've had like successful businesses.
No,
like,
I've had a hospital takeover.
Yeah,
and push out event. It's like I've had so many horrible.
Is it worth it in the end?
100%. I would do it a million times again.
As opposed to just saying, you know what, I'm going to check in. I'm going to work for somebody else at 5:30. I'm done. Peace out. Yeah. Not my fucking problem.
No. It's
because it's so much stress to take on.
It is stress, but then you learn to manage the stress. Stress becomes manageable, and of course, yes, like there's periods of recession, there's periods of struggle, and we see that every day. There's dips, and right now with Daybreaker, it's December, January. These are our slow months. People want to snuggle in their bed. They don't want to get up at 6 a.m. to dance. Though I disagree. It's a really great time to come out and get out of the cobwebs and get out of your house. But it is sort of our numbers do dip by 10% in these months, and it can be scary, but the only thing is all we can do is just say, look, we know the pattern. This is what happens. If our community members want to come out and continue supporting the community, then wake up and dance with us. But I'm definitely not immune to stress. I think it's really, it both fuels me, and also, also kind of pushes me, in other ways, not always positive, but I don't think we should look at every negative emotion as something that is
something we just have
bad.
to or eradicate.
Right. I think we can recognize the mean girls in my mind. I talk about in my book, the mean girls are never going to go away. Comparison, judgment, and perfectionism are never going to go away. They're always going to be in the cafeteria of our minds. We should choose who we're going to sit with at the lunch table. Are we going to sit with the mean girls or the soul sisters, who are the opposite, right? The soul sisters are gratitude, right? Curiosity, and oh God,
what was it? I have it down.
The opposite, and inspiration.
Inspiration.
The opposite of comparison is inspiration.
Just to go back to one other thing that you said that I think is important to highlight here is that you said you have a no gossip policy, and I loved that. One of the things I talk about so much personally is how uncomfortable I am with gossiping and how I don't want to partake in it and I don't want to hear it. Because the older I get, I just have less and less bandwidth for it. And I feel like so many of the social interactions I have socially end up being people just gossiping about other people.
Exactly.
And I always walk away going, guys, I don't want to do this. It doesn't make me feel good. And I know we have more interesting things to talk about.
Small people talk about people, right? Big people talk about ideas. That's it. It's like that's it. That's sort of my litmus test. Are you someone who's thinking small and playing small and just talking shit, or are you someone who's thinking big and playing big and talking ideas? And that's such a easy sort of, and all of my friends have gone through that filter. Of course, there's something called what I call my book positive gossip, where I can first be praising somebody. Oh my gosh, she's so amazing. I love her so much. Like, what can we learn from her? Or positive gossip in the sense that she's really struggling right now. Our friend has always shown up.
That's
in a beautiful
intervention.
way.
Yes.
It's intervention. Exactly. So it's not just writing your friend off if they start being negative or whatever. It's like, hey, I've known
being
her
actually
to be
concerned.
I've known her to be such an inspiring, positive person. There's something happening in her life right now where she's shit talking or she's feeling sad or upset. Let me intervene and have a conversation with her. Or for example, if I have a frustrating conversation with a friend, or I'm right now I'm going through a struggle with one of my dear friends. I talk about it with my sister and other friends to ask their advice on how I can patch up that relationship or what I can do better, in that relationship, not being like, well, he sucks.
Right. Well, I always say you don't have to eviscerate somebody.
That's right.
To be able to then have a constructive conversation behind their back.
Right.
So often in divorce or in relationships, we feel like we have to justify us saying, we have to leave this person, or the journey's up, or this relationship has come to its natural end. Instead, we eviscerate them.
Exactly.
And we do it. People come in therapy and they just want to eviscerate their ex the whole time. And I'm not going to participate in that. We can highlight maybe some of the things that you wish they had done differently. We can bring them in here for a conversation so everybody can learn from the experience. But sometimes relationships just come to their natural end.
That's right.
And it doesn't mean the other person's shitty.
Terrible. Yeah. No, exactly. And I talk about evolution, like a friendship life cycle that we have in life. And it's like, you have a gestation period, like you and I just met today, and I'm like, oh my God, she's great. I love her, So we meet, we connect, we have this like beautiful, like sort of
honeymoon period.
So gestation becomes frustration. Then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, you're sort of, this is my dance space, this is your dance space. We're getting to know each other, sort of conservative Republican. I'm a Democrat. I mean, I'm making this up. Whatever.
You're not.
Definitely not.
But yes.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, obviously not.
Yeah.
But like,
whatever the differences are. Yeah.
We're gonna have our dance spaces, and like, there's gonna be frustrating moments in those conversations, and really, that is actually the key moment to decide: is this person worth continue going through the friendship life cycle, or are we so far apart that it's not, our values totally don't align, right? But so more often, if you got to the gestation period in the first place, chances are you're just having like some sort of dance space conversation you need to have, and continue move through that conflict, because you'll get to cooperation. So gestation, frustration, cooperation, where you're like, oh my gosh, let's plan trips together, let's do fun. You begin to trust each other more. There's a sense of connection, loyalty, that you've had these difficult moments that you've gotten through, that you trust each other more in those moments, right? So gestation, frustration, cooperation. Then from cooperation, you go to creation. And that's where, when friends say, friends don't work with friends, or don't work with your lover.
Yeah, how do you feel that?
I disagree completely. I think that no matter what in life, we're going to evolve either away or closer together. So might as well, if you love somebody, like being around them, why not try to create? Why not try to create together? As long as you have different skill sets. That's actually very, very critical. You can't be stepping on each other's toes. Otherwise, if both of you just have a passion for something, it's not good enough. Someone needs to be good at accounting. Somebody needs to be good at revenue generating, right? Like whatever, right? So,
right.
So creation is actually a beautiful part of friendship that I think that we shouldn't say, I've been burned before, don't get into business with family, because we haven't developed that life cycle with that person, right? We haven't gone through.
So interesting.
And then from creation you go to evolution. So no matter what, you and I will evolve either together, around and around the circle we go for the rest of our lives, evolve, so evolution, gestation. Now we're moms. Now we're, so now we're continuing evolving, right? But then sometimes we're evolving away. Imagine two circles evolving away from each other. And I used to be very sort of upset and angry when this would happen, because I'd be like hurt and sad, and we're all nostalgic, animals, right? But then when you realize, wait a minute, they're on spaceship Earth, this weird spinning planet, right? They could be evolving away from us.
But
and
it's
now,
beautiful they come back, and
maybe they'll come back, maybe they won't. But the point is, in that time that we had together, let us be let us be grateful, And I think that's been my new MO that's saved me from so much heartache. If, let's say, friends move away,
so you don't feel abandoned.
I don't feel abandoned.
Yes.
I just feel like awesome.
Okay.
Like, hey, I loved it with you. Have a great life on Spaceship Earth.
Yes.
Enjoy.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that there's so much sort of still to learn about kind of personal relationships and how to deal with them. But all we can do is share tools that have worked for us, and that's what I do in this book. This is what worked for me, and this is how it's worked for my personal life, but also how we built Daybreaker at scale, and hopefully it serves you too.
So one last question.
Sure.
What's in the future for you?
So, the baby, her name is Soleil.
Yeah,
Soleil's
coming.
Yeah, which I'm like very excited
New
to
Year's
connect.
Eve. It's just unbelievable to me.
Yeah. But I'm also working on this new project called Live It Up, which I'm incredibly passionate about, which is the first ever text message based life school. So imagine every morning you wake up and you receive a text message from the CEO of Whole Foods Market for 21 days straight, who teaches you how to unlock your entrepreneurial mindset, how to become the best entrepreneur you can be, with the CEO of Whole Foods teaching you every morning when you wake up just how to do that, with a 3-minute bite-sized video that comes to your text. So instead of you having to log on to an online course platform where the drop-off rates are super high, 3%.
It can be too expensive
rates.
For people.
Yeah, this average $400. Like ours is $15 a month.
Live It Up is.
Live It Up, yep. And you get access to 12 experts across the year who will teach you on topics that you never learned in the classroom. So we polled our community and asked 8,000 members what they're struggling with, and came back with 12 topics. So things like love, sex, and relationships, financial abundance, time management, how to build a dream community, how to unlock your entrepreneurial mindset, nutrition essentials, fitness on the go, how to be fit when you're like traveling like crazy, right? Like all self-love, mindfulness, all these things that
it seems like we take those things for granted because like doesn't everybody know about that, but they still are craving that information all the time.
Adulting 101 is one of our
Adulting 101,
which is like how to take care of your plants.
Yeah.
Like how to take wine stains off your shirt, how to like fold fitted sheets.
I write out a check.
Yeah.
That's, it's so interesting you say that because I'm always baffled, having been in the game of giving people life advice for so long. I'm like, really?
Right.
Like it always surprises me that they still need this information,
That's
but
right.
people do,
Right.
and they need it and they want it just as much as I still want to learn and
Equally,
grow.
exactly.
And I love getting I know Mike Dooley does these things. Do you know about those? Tut Tut from the Universe?
No.
Mike Dooley created this huge email list. And literally, I think he worked for like Price Waterhouse or something. He was a consultant and he quit after a while and became a life coach. And he sends out these little messages from the universe called Tut Tut from the Universe.
I love
And it's
that.
just like a little inspiration that you wake up with in the morning.
Exactly
But
right.
you're actually doing
Like, it's
educational
like
technology.
educational,
So
and
you're
it's like
And
via text message.
Brilliant.
And
It's
90%
brilliant.
open rates on text message versus 3% open rates on
emails.
email, and versus 3 to 5% completion rates on online courses. Right, so it's a very
the same statistic with people buying self-help books, right? So
they start the first chapter and they never
drop-off
finish.
rate is huge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for us, I very, as women, also sharing wisdom is such an important part for the next generation. Most education courses also, they only care about the top of the funnel. They only care about how many people are signing up for the membership. They don't care about completion, who's actually finishing the course.
Of course. Or even necessarily creating dynamic content once they get in there.
Right.
Because stuff can be boring as well.
Exactly.
Right? Although yours is not.
So
practical.
So every morning you'll wake up with an intention card, like a beautifully illustrated and designed intention card that sets your day off with a beautiful note, and then a text message from an amazing expert around the topic that you get to pick every month, and then links out to a video that's a 3-minute challenge by an incredible CEO or some expert at all these different sort of life skills that we could learn from. So I'm really excited. It launches in November.
It launches in November.
Yeah, if you go to
and you're also building community through it.
Yep. And actually, for anyone listening who's still listening to this, we're actually building out a founding affiliate program as well for founding members to come and become sort of affiliates for Live It Up. So if you want to be a part of that, email us at ally@golivitup.com to become a founding affiliate, because not only can you be learning all this wisdom, but you can also be sharing it with others and making an incredible living doing it.
Good for you.
So we
did
really
you
want to
come up with
empower
this
women.
idea?
I did, yeah.
This is you, just probably in the shower.
That's right.
Being like, what other revolution can I start as I wash my hair? And
well, I think text message based concept is really interesting to me, and my friend Allie, who lives in my building, again, this is a friend.
The life, the way it works.
We bumped into each other and we started seeing each other, and she wanted to do a sort of a course as well for college students. So we got together, and I was really focused on the the text message side. She wanted to really focus on the college side, but we ended up kind of evolving it for anybody and everybody, and still kept the technology.
How long have you been working on this project?
18 months.
Amazing. Yeah. So just for people to hear, this didn't happen overnight. It was 18 months
18
in the
months
making.
of filming, building out the tech, getting cell phone companies to approve us not going to spam if we text hundreds of thousands of people a message that they become members, right? So there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of back end kind of wiring that's happening that people don't realize what it takes.
Did you raise money for this one as well?
Nope, this one I funded.
Funded yourself.
Yeah. Now, fortunately, knock on wood, I'm in a position where
you can do these
where
things.
I can do these things. Yeah.
You're amazing.
Yeah.
Radha, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having
I'm
me.
a hugger. That's my ritual. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of Unscripted with Nell Daly. If you could right now, we need you to head on over and review us on iTunes. As always, we will personally reach out and thank each and every one of you who do so, but we'd love your reviews, so tell us what you think. And you can always send us emails with either guests you want on the show or comments or questions. We're happy to get those, and you can find those on the website. Our contact information at nelldaly.com. To see all of my comings and goings, get updates on who our next guests are going to be, and if you just need a little bit of extra life advice or inspiration, come join me over on Instagram at Nell Daly. I use Instagram every single day. Or like us over on Facebook, and you'll automatically be following us, and that's at Nell Given Daily. That's also where you can watch us live. Before I end, I want to thank our audio editor, Walter Eggers, our video editor and co-producer, Paige McGovern, and our video production manager, Rick Endiver, co-producer, Corey Pakowski, and the rest of the Point Zero Media team. I couldn't do any of this without you. I couldn't. Of course, Teachable HQ, you guys rock. They're an amazing educational technology company. Check them out. I use them. Everybody big in the business uses them. They're just awesome. And a huge shout out of gratitude. Huge, the biggest, to all the fans who are following the show. Just like I said last week, I am so humbled by how this is all going. Thank you. Until Monday, everybody, peace out. Have a fun and safe weekend. I love you guys already.